I want the light on my face, but I don't think I can get it. I think it can only go to the back of my head. I
You,
look like
you
I'm dying.
yeah, you look like Persona, but like, you know, like this way. They do it
Uh,
this way and you do it this way.
Well, if I do it,
If you do it like maybe on top of your head, it could be Persona, and we can both be Persona because I have this right here and you have your split right here. Your mic has become a part of the light.
oh
Um,
really?
looks really white. Is it? Oh, you wrapped
No,
in
I
paper.
wrapped it with a tissue because
Okay,
I noticed in
that's
the
why.
last video my peas were all like just blasting.
Okay, I thought that was part of the lighting effect, like how good the movie is with the lighting.
I look heavenly.
You do.
Okay.
Oh, now it looks way better, actually. Okay, awesome.
I just directed it somewhere else. Okay.
Okay, no longer Persona. Tiana back with us on
I
our
have dropped my facade and my persona.
Persona. Excellent, excellent theme integrated. So welcome back to our Valentine's special, I guess. And
Number two.
number two, yeah, entitled Unlikely Valentine Heroes. And this time we're talking about one of my absolute favorite films ever, Persona, 1960
1966.
by Ingmar Bergman, who's also one of my favorite directors ever. So, Tiana, what are your thoughts? Because you actually were saying something about wanting to watch this for this special series. So, what prompted you to, propose it for this week?
No, I knew like you really liked it and you wanted me to watch it, and I think I labeled it in one of my like letterbox something similar to letterbox app in Chinese,
Mhm.
and I felt like it was a really interesting film and people were saying how praiseworthy it was, how um contemporary it was, like how transformative it was watching it.
Mhm.
So I was really curious to see what it would do for me. And curious enough, like a few days watching it, a few days back when I first watched it, it was in Chinese subs, and I was cramping pretty bad my first day, and then it just didn't, I didn't get it. I was very confused, and I felt like I was kind of in a trance. So I was like dozing off, and the Chinese translations were very bad to the
Totally.
point where I felt like I was just watching this stream of consciousness poem, and I was like, what does everything mean? I couldn't even get what the plot was. So then I was like, no, this cannot work. And then I rewatched it again in English subs, and the whole movie made a lot more sense. Not so much sense that I can completely say I understood what I watched, but at least I understood what was going on and what the two characters were doing.
For
Two.
sure, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So my journey with this film, I've seen it. This is my first time watching it. I just finished it, like 10 minutes ago, actually. The first two times I've watched with a Chinese sub, and like you said, I felt like I was high. Like,
Like, yeah, like I didn't understand. I was like, is it me?
no, the whole
Or is
time
it
it just reminded me, do you know that one scene within this film where like Alma was just like saying nonsense just so to come off as unpredictable to Elizabeth? She's like, "You can't predict me. Let me just say words." And then she said a bunch of words that made no sense. Like the whole film in Chinese felt exactly like that one scene where it was
the
just
whole
like
movie?
you, me, I, us. Like it was just like
Yeah.
words strung together, like no logic. Like very pretentiously translated as well, I think.
It just doesn't sound like human dialogue.
No, I agree.
It sounds like something that you read from a philosophy textbook.
Sounds like Sims, like two Sims characters, like communicate. Like yeah, agreed. Also sounds like an old like dude philosopher.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense. So definitely, like, if you're Chinese and you want to watch it with Chinese dubs, don't go with that. Don't do it like that. Just go immediately to English subs. It's
If you
just,
can, if you can.
yeah.
Mhm.
I hope someone can translate a better Chinese version of this, because,
Perhaps translate off of the English, I think that would
yeah.
generate a better result than what we got currently. Um, But in English, it just makes so much more sense. Agreed. Like,
Yeah, I don't know why, but it's yeah, it just clicked.
yeah.
But yeah, it was a very interesting movie, and I don't think I know I sent pictures to V of me watching midway through, and I was just confused and kind of in shock in some moments. I think the scene that shocked me the most was when you see the actual transformation
Mhm.
where, it's almost dreamlike. We don't know if it's a dream or if it happened in reality, but you know, Elizabeth's husband came into the woods and then recognized Alma as Elizabeth, and they, did everything and had that conversation. And I was like, oh. It was just, what? What's going on? What? But it like retrospectively it did make sense. Like I could sort of understand it, but I know there's also a lot of different interpretations to this film because I did a little bit of research after watching it to get um
You
a
got to. You got
clearer idea of what I'm looking at. So I want to listen to what your takes and what theory you stand by or what theories you stand by.
Dude, for that scene, like the first two watches, for me, it was more like abstract and more surreal. But the third time, like literally 5 minutes before us recording, I read someone just saying straight up, the husband is blind, which I think makes the most sense. Because he was wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he could have very well be blind. And that just straight up makes the most sense.
No, no,
I think it does. You don't think so?
no, because it's like the voice. And he has no reactions when Alma's like, I'm not Elizabeth, dude. And like she doesn't say dude, but like I'm not Elizabeth. She reiterates this. And the guy's just like keeps saying what he wants to say. He doesn't give a
Isn't
shit.
Ken like that always, like refusing to listen?
No, I feel like what you said, like I feel the way you feel when you watched it the first two times. I feel like it's more a dash of like surrealism here.
Mhm.
Because why there's no mentioning of the forest anywhere in the movie except for there and the point where Elizabeth receives her husband's postcard and there was a mentioning of the woods like taking her bell and whatever.
Mhm.
And I think that alludes to that. So I think it's something more dreamlike or more subconscious.
Mhm. Got you, got
Um,
you.
yeah.
No,
But
agreed.
I
Agreed.
don't know. There's you can interpret this movie in any way possible. It's so ambiguous, and I think it was purposely
So,
done so. Yeah, purposely so.
agreed. Yeah, but that scene just intrigued me so much because the second time watching it, it just felt like a three-way, like, and all parties are like present. And I felt, I don't know, a lot of people like second time I watched, I told you this, I saw it in like a movie salon with like a bunch of people, and straight up, the host asked us a question of whether this film has two women or just one person, whether
Yeah,
Elizabeth are two people or just one person. And I literally have never thought of that question because I almost thought it was two people for sure. Like I never thought it's a possibility for it to be one person. And I thought it would be so boring if it was just one person, like in Fight Club,
me too.
you
Me too.
know?
Me too.
So in that scene too, if you were just to straight up interpret it as one person, it would make just so much sense because it's just one person embracing the husband and nothing else. And like the image is hallucinatory because it's one person imagining two people and then
It's
um
like Elizabeth imagining the mother kind of having the motherhood that she should have, or being the mother that she should be, and the wife that she should be, kind of.
yeah.
But I completely stand by you with your points because I do not feel like this. I feel like, yes, the movie would be so boring if it was only one person. I know it's a prominent theory, but I think there's multiple clues throughout the movie to show that this is definitely two people
And that's
interacting with
why
each
we
other.
are doing a Valentine's like special on it because two people have this intimate relationship and it's worth talking about. And that's why we
Yeah.
proposed it because how boring would it be just like schizophrenic individual having two sides of her? You know, I just feel like that would be like the most cliched film because people will just say it's like Fight Club of women characters and then watch it
Mhm.
like that, you know? And that wouldn't be interesting at all, in my opinion.
I feel like the whole point was to put these women into contrast because they are so different. But and they have like different kind of faiths almost. Like one is kind of more pessimistic with life, Elizabeth, and one is more, I feel like there is some kind of good in the world and I can do stuff about it and there is meaning, and that's Alma. But
hmm What do you think they
and
are correspondingly? That's their persona versus who they truly are in their deepest cores.
I feel like for Alma, it's pretty straightforward. You can already tell. Um, like she's a nurse, right? So a nurse, you stereotype that with a caring personality, someone who takes care of others, and in her own first introduction of herself, and she says, I'm engaged, I'm 25. Like that's a part of who she is. I'm a soon-to-be wife. I'm this loving character, and I come from this family that, is standard, typical, but yeah, this is me.
Like all
With
these milestones kind of like, define who she is. Like
yeah.
the third thing, the 25 thing, the career thing, like all these labels and like milestones of like what a traditional or like standard life might look like become like definitions of her. And that's part of her persona in a way.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
That's summed up way better than I could. But the other side of her, like deep down, you can see that she's a much more complex character than that. Because I feel like in the beginning, when I was watching it the first time in Chinese, even, I felt like putting these two women in this secluded little log cabin near the sea, and one wouldn't talk, and the other person's just like rambling on and on and on, and sort of like reflecting on herself and talking about her past. I feel that's definitely some kind of like Freudian psychoanalysis
Yeah.
where you like someone's listening and you're just like freely associating and just talking about whatever comes to your mind. And
Yeah.
there she talks about, um her supposedly sinful past where she has an orgy on the beach.
Yeah.
And she's wallowing in guilt over that thing, but she also acknowledges that she felt great. So I think that's kind of the other side of her. Also, later when she expressed a lot of anger and contrary to, I'm supposed to be taking care of you, in the middle, it almost seems like Elizabeth's taking care of her and her emotions. And later on, where, there was this huge outburst, she almost, scalded Elizabeth with boiling hot water. She's doing things that you would never associate with her at the very beginning of the movie.
hmm Agreed. I saw it's so interesting because initially she's like, I always like take care of people. I always am the listener, but you're the only person who listens. And then
Hmm.
it shows like a greed even of like now I've gotten a taste of like having myself just poured out like all over you and then you're
Hmm.
showing that you're not like absorbing everything that I'm giving you. You're actually like squeezing out what I've given you as a piece of like intel or a piece of like entertainment to humor other people. And that's where like
Yeah.
where he felt betrayal from this relationship where it's not a straight up I'm giving and you're taking, that kind of thing. It's not contained within these two individuals, and that's where the problem arises, I think, for her. Yeah, the trust
Yes.
betrayed. And I think that's part of why I initially was afraid of getting like help from like a therapist because I was afraid that like trust might be broken by way of, my secrets, like for the therapist to share with other people, you know,
Hmm.
like
I know. But that they a therapist should never do that. Never do that.
it's
Yeah, I know what your
right.
worry comes from, and just looking at the background pic that you have right now, like, Elizabeth to me from the very beginning, to the very end, there's something just really, I wouldn't say off-putting, but like something very out of, sorry, what?
Unsettling with her.
Yes, very unsettling with her. Like she would smile, she would caress Alma's face, she would take all of her things in. But even before that letter, I felt like Alma was being studied in a way. Like it was almost like she was turning into Elizabeth's pet of sorts.
Also,
And
it's kind of like I wouldn't say theatrical, but like there she's having her like entertainment in a form of a person who's Alma, right? Like
yeah.
they don't have TV or nothing. They don't have they don't have in touch TV, right? They're just two people, but for her, she is like straight up just consumer and nothing. She doesn't like reciprocate or like provide content for the other person to consume. So she is the consumer, and the other person is a piece of entertainment for her to absorb and consume. And although she is providing therapy like unintentionally, the consuming part is what relaxes her in a way. Like for once she isn't the person being consumed. For once she isn't the person being perceived, analyzed, and her persona being like all everyone wants to take in the
That's a
dynamic.
very good perspective. Yeah, because she's an actress. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's an actress.
Mhm.
For once, like she is the one that, is getting entertainment from someone else instead of having to entertain other people through her own persona.
The power dynamic or like the hierarchy of consumer and creator or consumer and entertainer are on the same level? Or do you think there is a sort of this person is higher than the other?
I wouldn't say one is higher or lower, but for this movie, you do know some power dynamic changes, between Alma and Elizabeth. But when each of those things, like those changes happen, I feel like there's something more deep than just consumer and entertainer. Um, I think it's something I can't really put it into words, but it's something like more more emotional, more raw.
Agreed.
And whenever they're in the lower on the lower hand,
Mhm,
or whoever has the upper hand
mhm.
gets to berate the other person because the other person has exposed who they truly are. Kind of, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I see what you're saying. But I feel like as soon as the letter was found,
Hmm.
only Alma is in the lower hand. Like she never like becomes on the same level with Elizabeth ever again, and everything she does after or like before the scene of her analyzing Elizabeth and her son, before that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in between the letter and that is just her trying to get on the same level with Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah,
single
she's
outburst.
apologizing. She's like trying to regain power through her angry outbursts, but
Hmm.
yeah. But
Agree.
in a way, like you can see I think I don't know what the core theme of the movie is because there's so many themes that speaks to this movie. But I think one of them might be, like 人之初性本恶 is something like deep down everyone's just
Evil.
not a good person and yeah, very, very evil because the unsettling emotional horror, like the psychological horror that comes from this movie are the points where um they sort of drop their personas and turn cold, very cold towards each other. Like the point where Alma purposely puts a shard of glass in Elizabeth's way so she steps on it to hurt her. And like her gaze, her stare, the close-ups, it's horror in a different kind of way, and I really enjoyed it.
But I feel like the horror stems from a deep sort of love because when she's trying to hurt Elizabeth, even like the pouring water thing, it isn't like, oh, my therapist has betrayed me. I'm gonna like report her on 大众点评 or Yelp. Like it's anything like that. It's more like my husband has cheated on me and I'm gonna hurt him even worse than he hurt me. You know what I mean? So I feel like the horror just comes from like how deep the attachment goes with the two characters.
It's
Um,
like love-hate, right? Insecurity and love-hate.
yeah. Even like I feel like the whole film is so sentient. Like it's so like touch based. There's a bunch of like, caressing the face.
Hmm.
Like there's a bunch of like this and then like even um when Elizabeth was like trying to pretend she was asleep and then Elma was like describing her like features and like by way of like touching and smelling her, like the whole scene was just so intimate and throughout as well, just like intimacy throughout.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I get the horror aspect, but to me it's more like I just felt so bad for Alma, honestly. Like even like the third time watching it, even when she does manage to get power back by I wouldn't say hurting, but by just finally understanding who she's dealing with, and that's how she
Hmm.
got her power back. I still feel bad for her. But at the end of it, I almost cried actually. I don't know why. I don't know what come over me, but I cried actually like almost during the final
Oh.
time that's played when she was like flipping her hair and the image of Elizabeth previously doing the same to her was superimposed on screen.
How would you interpret like Elizabeth? Like at some points, like they say to each other and do things to each other where it kind of hints at, okay, it's gonna become ambiguous. You are kind of me, and I'm g becoming kind of you. So, what are your thoughts on that? So for like Alma, it was when she was saying, if I try hard enough, I could become you, and you could become me just like that.
Mhm.
Um, but your soul would, pour over because it will be so full.
Mhm.
And I think this scene where, which is her background right now, I think it's sort of like hinting to us that they do look alike. And even that scene where their faces are, divided in half, and
Yeah.
it it's like hinting at us throughout the whole film that they are kind of merging into one being. So I guess that's why there's this theory of them being one person. And I understand that theory, but I don't stand by it.
Mhm.
I think it's still two people there, and so, with some kind of surrealism and subconscious
Yeah.
stuff merging together.
Mhm. No, that scene behind me where it's kind of,
Mm,
you know, confirmation for Alma that this person or this experience did happen. Image at this point acts like proof or evidence of things actually transpire in a way, even though like images don't always mean that, things
mhm,
can be hallucinatory or like just surreal, like we talked about. But for that scene, I think it confirmed for her that this um life-altering experience actually transpired for her. And I, at
mhm,
that point, just felt moved because it isn't just one crazy woman being split into and then coming back into one. It's more, I'm sure it happened and I'm content walking away a different person or the same person even, but with this memory etched onto me or like into my soul. Also, like them parting ways and having different like lives after the fact.
I didn't really understand the ending. I knew that Alma left, but how would you interpret Alma making Elizabeth say the word nothing and then leaving?
Hmm. I don't know. That scene for some reason I forgot about. Like a lot
It
of things,
seems significant though.
a lot of things stuck with me. Like especially like, the scene where Alma was like vividly like recounting her sexual encounter. That part
Mhm.
stuck with me. Like the first time I watched it was like literally 6 years ago, and I was like, that part was like one of the
Whoa.
most prominent parts. Yeah, because come on, like we've seen sex on screen, but her recounting sex is almost more explicit than,
Yeah, it hits harder.
yeah, for some reason.
Definitely hit harder. Yeah.
I don't know why though,
Oh.
but it was just so shocking for me. But the the one where she succeeded in making Elizabeth say the word nothing. For some reason, I forgot about that scene. I was like, she spoke? Like,
What?
I
Yeah.
only remembered the hot water thing where she like out of instinct.
No, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I remembered her say. But
Yeah,
what,
I think she for sure said another thing, like she whispered, "Don't sleep on
oh,
the
that
desk."
I remembered as well. Yeah, that part I remember.
Yeah.
But
But not
the
the nothing because it was
no,
nothing.
truly, truly. What do you
That's
think
fine.
about that? Like, what are your thoughts on?
I don't know, so I wanted to ask you, but yeah, I don't have a theory. I don't have any idea for that one. I think it kind of speaks to the deeper philosophical aspect of the movie that I don't completely get. I think it would be more like I don't know, Kierkegaard stuff and existentialism stuff, but
Agreed.
I don't know. I don't know any further than that.
No.
Um
It's also them finally getting on the same power level and then parting ways, you know?
yeah,
Like they
that
part for ways as enemies. They actually, I wouldn't say compromise, but got what they wanted. I maybe her saying the word is her cure, and that's why she left, right? Because that's her
maybe.
that's her like diagnosed, right? Her not being able to move or say words. And then when she said it, case closed, like patient cured, and then she left. And Alma also got what she wanted, which is this person saying words. Like,
In the right, like in the very, very beginning of the movie, like on the lines of talking about nothing, I felt it was really, really interesting. I don't know if this was like if this is an over interpretation, but the hospital scene and also you know, the head nurse or doctor
so what
talking to
does she have
Alma.
like a fancy house by the beach? Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I don't
I'm
forget
with
that
you.
either.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the way that the scenes are set up that's really interesting because it's not the standard hospital or even office kind of look that you would expect to have. It looks almost
Like
bare.
also like a psychiatric ward. Like if I were to imagine one, which I've not seen in real life, I
Oh,
would
I think it is a psychiatrical
okay,
word.
I would
Word.
imagine it to be like that. Maybe it's me being influenced by this movie, but I
Mm-hmm.
imagine a ward, it might look like that for some reason.
To me, everything just seemed empty and kind of like a scene where somebody just put together in 5 minutes and intentionally wanted it to be
Minimalist.
blank and have be as yeah minimalist as possible. And that was really weird. I was like, is this part of the act? What part of it is real? And something seems, it almost seems staged in
Hmm.
the beginning, the way the head nurse or the doctor talked to Alma, um, and the way she was sitting like at an empty, almost empty desk with bare walls around her. It was just really weird. Yeah.
Agree. It was definitely set up theatrically, even when like Alma was like going to bed and then she like turned her light back up and she was almost like delivering a soliloquy.
Yeah.
What's the word? Yeah, and to the
Soliloquium. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know.
to us, right? To the
Yeah.
and then after that, it's like a male narrator saying something like those two women have moved to this location and uh, Elizabeth's feeling way better because of the activities and everything. Like it's very, very theatrical. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like something that, you know, you would go to an art exhibition or art gallery, and then it might be playing on a small tiny TV in the corner of some
Oh,
exhibition,
we
and you
saw
don't.
something like that in Shanghai, right? Some
Yeah, exactly.
like photos.
It gave me that vibes. Like this movie gave me that vibes. I'm like, I might just walk into some gallery some other day, and this might be on exhibition, and I might be just watching this in some room. But yeah, that was really interesting. And also like I read up on a theory that I wanted to share, and that was, you know, the scenes at the beginning and the end where they both portray the opening of a camera roll and the ending of like a film shoot, and also this boy. And it's theorized that this boy is actually Elizabeth's son. I didn't think that way until I saw reviews and whatever. But did you think that after your first two watches?
I think it was like the more obvious reading because a son was mentioned. So that little boy, like if you were to draw conclusions, it could be that person. But I think it would be boring that way. Like I think it wouldn't be interesting.
Hmm.
I feel
I
like
didn't even think I didn't even like my thoughts didn't even go there. I didn't but
right.
that does make sense though for him to be her son. And the interpretation was basically this little boy is trying to with hands like trying to make sense of this ambiguous um
Mother figure in a way.
mother figure, this female face. We don't know if it's just mother or not, but just a female face, and this kind of is theoretically, I know Bergman,
And
his kind of like a reflection of himself when he was a boy and trying to figure out the woman's psyche, the the female, like what a woman is, and kind of his experiment with it. And I think it mentioned this like this reviewer also mentioned that Bergman in a lot of his movies talk about this theme and explore, what explore women and women's psyches. This movie Persona is a boy trying to figure out females within a male gaze. So everything is within a male gaze. And apparently there's this very quick fleeting picture of a wiener at
yeah,
the beginning too. And I didn't know that. I didn't even catch that.
that's one of the things I remembered, I think, even from the first one. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, did you see it? Like I didn't even see it.
Very prominent. Like I wouldn't post it here for the sake of our channel, I wouldn't, but it's very prominent. Look it up. Yeah.
Okay.
And that wiener also connected with Fight Club, right? Because it
It
happened.
does?
Yeah. At the end, it was a very quick flash of Brad Pitt's junk. Yeah, at the end. So
Interesting.
confirmed that Fight Club is copying off of that. That's mean of me. It's learning from this movie, I guess. Yeah.
This is why Rex, my boyfriend, why he says I can't play FPS games.
Mhm.
My eyes don't capture any movement. Like I just can't see shit. I was like, okay, images are flashing by. I didn't get any of
Next
it.
time, one thing I learned from this film, they always wear glasses before seeing things. Next time when you do so, wear glasses. That's a lesson, Persona.
Yes, cool rad sunglasses for me to see things.
Not for
Oh,
the
also,
blind guy, for
oh
like
yeah, also the reading
yeah,
glasses.
like
Yeah.
Alma and the little boy, like they're bespectacled when they read.
Yeah,
I
that's funny. Yeah.
think one thing for me, like about the little boy, I thought it was pretty clear when a director is trying to self-insert, and I felt it was a really obvious self-insert at that point because especially for Bergman and a lot of like European directors in the 60s and 70s.
Mhm.
There's a theory called auteurs, and basically they control all aspects of their production of all their films because they are able to finance a lot of it, and they work with like a crew that's like pretty set, like the editor, the
Yeah.
cinematographer, and like the actors too. Like both
Hmm.
actresses have worked with Bergman a lot, especially BB Anderson, like the Elizabeth actress.
Hmm.
Both actresses with him have had affairs, have had long relationships, and yeah, Alma's actress came before, and then Bergman fell in love with Liv Ullmann, who is Elizabeth's actress. So there is a bit of like narcissistic aspect there where, both women have been with him. And then
At what point did he shoot this movie? Like during
definitely
which?
here, definitely when he's involved with Elizabeth's actress.
That's kind of messed up though.
No, I know it's part of his movies, and he keeps on employing all these people.
But I know that Bergman, like, I did read somewhere random that he did have a lot of marriages.
I don't, I forget about the marriage aspect, but like definitely relationships. And I felt like it was a bit of like a fantasy, like you were saying, like this film is being viewed by the male gaze because in a way it is a fantasy, right? For like
Yeah.
a guy to be like my current girlfriend and my ex, like wouldn't it be cool for the three of us to be a part, a thing, a three-way, almost like the movie
Oh,
where that happened.
that's what you meant. Oh, okay.
That's not what
So,
I meant, but like it just connected, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
know what you mean. But I have another question for you. So what how can you tell if a director is like self-inserting themselves into a movie?
Like sometimes you need to be kind of informed of the director's style and also persona or like their themes in a way. Like another director, Fellini, he employs this one really hot actor to be his insert in a lot
Oh,
of movies in exploring similar themes, right? And also like a lot of directors are narcissistic or like 怀旧 nostalgic in a way that oh when I was a little boy that kind of thing. So it's kind of
no.
obvious if you like know of this
Do
phenomenon.
men do this? Like, do men directors do this more often?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just wondering. Just wondering, yeah. Did we
Like
talk about the Electra complex here
have
after we started recording?
no. We can talk about
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, wait, I don't know. I don't know what it means though. Like I understand what the complex is, but I don't understand why they put it there. It seems pretty obvious, but I don't know. It's like at the tip of my tongue, but I can't really put my understanding or thoughts into words. So it happens at the very beginning when, they're introducing Elizabeth and her conditions. She was in this play called Electra, and Electra complex is kind of like the female version of the Oedipus complex. Oedipus complex is where a small boy falls in love with your mother, and this one is basically a girl falls in love with your father kind of thing.
but in a way I feel like the like Oedipal will make more sense in this movie, especially the introduction. It's literally a little boy looking at like motherly or like, women could be his mom age-wise.
Yeah.
So that would make
Yeah.
more sense if you were to think about it, right?
Hmm.
And I did feel like the film is these women having some sort of erotic or like romantic connection in a way, and then it's somewhat positioned in front of a male audience for them to perceive. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, you sent me this summary and there were a lot of isms in that summary. I didn't read the whole thing, but there's this I don't know, like there was this word that I read from the internet in a review regarding this movie,
Mm.
vampirism, because there's that scene, where
I
Elizabeth
literally
like,
took that note when I was watching it, and literally it's the first time I've thought of that theme.
what
Like,
does that mean though? Like if you were to interpret it, what would you think?
I just felt
'Cause
like
I haven't seen anything like it.
it's another act of consumption and two
Oh.
beings becoming the same. Because vampirism, isn't it like when you drink a vampire's blood or something, you become vampire? Or is it? Or like,
Uh, yeah, like I'm your creator, drink my blood, and you become a vampire. Like I give birth to you, kind of thing.
in a way, like vampirism is interesting because like the context in which I've read it, it's almost always fan fictions, and it's almost always like two people, like the humans, like I want to be like eternal, like you are, so we can be together forever. And when they drink the blood of, the vampire is simultaneously their mom and lover. So
Yeah,
that's part of vampirism, like you said, like the
that's
creed,
kinky.
the
That
creed.
is just kinky. Yeah. There's a lot of kinky moments in this film if you think of it.
What else?
A lot. Like where she's just like talking about her, erotic past. I feel like that's kinky also in a way.
I thought that was more like, did you mean like now that you know who Bergman is and his like
Yeah, yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe
right?
that too. Yeah, maybe that too. Because if you see it that way, then yeah. But if you see it in a more artsy, contemporary art way, then maybe
Or like
not. But
psychological way, because for me it's just her pouring out her trauma or trying to like, have another woman understand who she is in
like she's analyzing herself in a kind of way. And I think sh Elizabeth is the listener in that sense. And she's like the psychoanalyst.
and almost trying to be like absolved from her sins as she sees it.
Oh,
Like if she
yeah.
shares the
She's
secret.
confessing.
Yeah, if she like, yeah, like you said, it's a more um yeah, I do think Catholicism is like a theme that he explores in other movies. So it could definitely be,
Hmm.
like a confessional booth.
But what other religious like parables do you see in this movie?
Like the nail in the hand, right? That's like the
Yeah, that what does that mean though? That was one of the few fleeting scenes that I actually got to perceive with my puny brain and tiny eyes. So,
I think a lot of those fleeting scenes are just meant to shock. I don't think they meant anything else. They're just more
mhm.
like because during that time for like American audiences, like jarring and daring images are rare. And like he just
Oh.
put in a lot of even like the Vietnam War and the World War II images, like those are just not for American eyes to perceive, but he put it out there to make a statement. Um, and I
It's
think
so contemporary. Yeah.
that also connected with what Alma was saying in the movie. She's like, I thought artists are supposed to be compassionate and
Oh yeah.
help people.
That,
I feel like this movie is so meta through and through. Like, what is an artist? Like, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to help themselves? Like them wanting to like get into a persona just to escape from their realities? Like, what is an artist? Like, what makes them one and what do they want to achieve by way of their artistry? Like those are just questions I think this movie is trying to ask. And ultimately, I don't know what Bergman is trying to achieve with this movie. I think it's more self-helping, self-serving, and more narcissistic. And I did think he was trying to call himself out with Alma saying, I thought artists were trying to be compassionate because
mm,
I don't think this movie is meant to help people. Even with those horrific images of sacrifice because with the man burning himself, I knew it was
yeah.
an image from the Vietnam War,
Vietnam War.
but I
Yeah.
didn't know it was a monk like putting himself on fire because
Oh.
he felt persecuted by the South Vietnam government because they were practicing another religion.
Hmm.
Yeah. And all
That's
these
interesting.
horrific images. I feel like I'm still a bit unsure as to why. I don't know.
References to war and also the later war image that Elizabeth studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she sees all these horrific things and all she does is like kind of helpless like we are when we are confronted with horrific images, right? Just helpless.
Yeah.
Isn't that part of her deciding not to talk anymore because there's no point? Like, isn't
Maybe that's
that
what she's trying to express.
yeah.
Um, I thought like from my understanding, it was more like, wait, what was my understanding? It's shifted throughout our talk, but I think my understanding like aligns with what the doctor's analysis of her is, and also with Alma's analysis of her, like her motherhood thing, where she doesn't want to be a mom. She is a very cold person on the inside, and she is trying to find find solace by just staying quiet and not being anyone and just being a nobody, just being nothing.
Like
That's easier.
I feel you, but when she's in private, she chooses to consume reality in a way.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say reality as they are because they are recorded realities, even like the footage of the monk setting himself on fire. It's recorded reality. The photo is, I wouldn't say staged, but the framing is intentional. The
Hmm.
production maybe transforms it into some other sort of reality. But when she's in private, she chooses to confront all these things. Um,
But
even
she refuses to confront her own realities.
But why? Like I understand I understand why. I do understand when we feel tired of our own selves and choose to not think about ourselves and choose to just think about other horrific realities. I do understand the psychology behind that. But to me, there's still uncertainty with the choice of the footage and with the choice of these
Mhm.
flickering images, like you said. You know, like why these images specifically? Are they solely there to shock? I don't think so. I don't think it's ever that simple with brilliant
I
minds.
feel like it's kind of I don't know, all referring to the darker sides of humanity and the darker side of the world. Like fear, situated by the spider, by the tarantula, and also sacrifice and sin, by the impalement of the hand, and also, sex and erotica by the phallic photo. I don't know what else there is. These are the only ones that I know.
Right, 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 right.
But yeah, it's interesting because some analyses think that, Elizabeth is trying to change Alma so Alma represents her and becomes her and lives her life in a way. So she can, be the person behind the scenes and not stay in touch with reality. I
That's
don't.
that's kind of like what billionaires do, or not really, but like injecting blood of young boys. I don't know, like it's not the same. I'm just thinking like or like what we talked about last week, like invasion, you know, like you or like Get Out, the movie. Like you putting
Hmm.
your consciousness into another body, so your flesh doesn't have to carry all these motions and actions, and then your consciousness can just do its own thing in healthier bodies or like fetishized bodies
Yeah.
in that context. Um, well,
But isn't it so interesting that both female protagonists in these two movies that we talk about are all Alma?
yeah,
Are
no,
both
I know. That's definitely not something I was planning. We were planning, but yeah, it is
That's funny. Now we have to find a third Valentine's movie if we do a third episode that
that has almost.
protagonist's name is also Alma, yeah.
There's something I wanted to say, but I'm forgetting.
Also me too. I can't remember. I really like the quote. It's translated to English, so I don't know how accurate it is. But I just really like the line life seeps in everywhere. It's true. You can't escape from it. Life seeps in everywhere.
And
Yeah.
isn't it interesting that like when Elizabeth goes back into her reality, she resumes as an actress, you know? She begins lying,
Yeah.
and according to the doctor's analysis, like acting is lying. Her be going back to reality equals her escaping from it in a way. Because
Yeah.
isn't that so interesting? Because in a way, her
Maybe she realized that being someone else is being no one as well.
is nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Like her
Nothing is the
cure,
key word.
like her cure is just her being herself. That's so refreshing. Like if you just be yourself, you can be free, like for a moment. If for her, at least. Probably not for us, but like for an actress, maybe.
But she has to go back to being a mother, which is something that she's trying to shun
That's true.
and
That's
trying to prove to other people. Like her son, I don't know, her son is more something like her trophy of motherhood. I can be a mom. Look, I'm a mom.
yet going back to reality is her confronting all these lies that she's constructed or she's waiting to get herself into, like the different roles she's waiting to act out, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So interesting. Oh,
I don't know. There's definitely something else I wanted to say. I can't
no,
remember.
me either. Like me either. Oh yeah, I remember part of what I wanted to say. Um, for me, sometimes when I have crushes on men, I
Uh-huh.
feel vampiric in a way. I feel like they inject a bit of themselves into me where I act out in ways that resemble that person or I feel like they might be intrigued by, if that makes sense.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes. That definitely makes sense. Because that's what you want to do, right? You kind of like put on an act so you can attract their attention and attention more.
Mhm.
So I think that speaks to every single kind of relationship we have in life. Life is just, making more personas as we meet new people and form new relationships. Because you are going to be different for every single person that you interact with. You're never going to be the exact same one.
Agreed.
People are going to have different perspectives and takes on who you are and what you are. And that's inevitable because it's just different.
It might be tiring for some people, but it also might be freeing for other people. Yeah, I that's definitely something because I was reading reviews and articles as well of this movie, and one was
Hmm.
saying that this movie is about like obsession and what else? What, power grab, control, right? Where
Yeah, I see that.
I feel like Elizabeth's way of exerting control is her imposing her entire, not even persona, her entire person
I
onto
her
them.
identity. Yeah.
She's like, what's the word? Copy pasting. Not even that. She's like deleting. She's control Xing herself and then control being it onto Alma.
Yeah.
That
She's
explains
like, okay,
her.
I'm just this empty void now. Here you go. Become me.
Yeah, that explains her disappearance, right? It's her control Xing herself out of the movie.
Yeah,
Her
that
migrating into this other body.
that's creepy. That's very creepy.
But sometimes,
But
isn't that how control works? Like for influencers too, like their style is being
they
imposed.
copy paste their style or their thoughts, their values, their
Yeah.
ideas onto people that they can influence and have control
That's
over.
politics too, baby. Like that's everything. That's power. Like that's just how power works sometimes. Like one person says one thing in hopes of it being adopted by other people, even if it's just like you saying a word, if that becomes something you actually believe in, if that becomes your style, right? If that becomes something of you, then it works, and power just works that way. It's control, copying,
That
pasting.
is true.
Yeah.
She copy pasted herself onto Alma.
She delete, she cut, pasted, maybe.
Cut pasted.
That's more
But
freeing.
do you think Alma, I'm not, no, no. Do you think Elizabeth intentionally left her letter open?
Yeah.
You didn't even think, you're like, yeah.
I think she's a knowing. She isn't all knowing, but she it's intentional. Yeah. What do you think?
I think so too, or else I wouldn't have asked this question. I'm kind of on the fence here, but I'm leaning to more towards like she intentionally did this because she knew how big of a psychological blow it would be to Alma, and that's kind of a way to gain the upper hand in power, I think, to her. Like there's still something very unsettling and very cunning about Elizabeth that almost makes her uncanny.
Agreed. Like the caressing during Alyssa's sleep scene was supposed to be very loving and very like soft, but then she opened her eyes and everything turned cold.
It's just creepy. Yeah, it's just creepy.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I still have sympathy for her because I get wanting to escape from yourself. I get that feeling. Like I get where he's coming from. And I
I
get
understand that, but you shouldn't copy paste yourself onto someone else.
yeah.
Dude.
Like when she's feeling so futile, like when confronted with all acts of violence and all that, like her way of coping maybe is to exert power outward. And maybe her act of violence is this cut, copy, paste. act, which is exactly the Vietnam War thing. Like this person was trying to protest because other people were trying to paste their form of religion onto him, and he didn't want to do that, so he
He
imploded.
resisted.
Yeah, he resisted
Yeah.
because he didn't want to have power imposed over him like that. It's all connected. And
Similarly, it's like Alma exploded like mid-scene, right? The explosion.
it's
That
more like cigarette burning into her image. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like there was a bam and then, she was like kind of melting away at the scene.
That's so interesting. Like I've never thought of it like this. Like the politics aspect and power. When you talk about power, like everything I think connects. Because romantic relationship, if it is an imbalanced one, then there is going to be power grabs and there's going to be a power imbalance and there's going to be twisted games. Yeah.
Yeah, the nail in hand scene here in my notes
Mhm.
shows up again right after um Alma has her outburst and everything explodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it did happen, yeah, initially in like the opening sequence.
Yeah, the opening. Did it happen in the ending? I don't remember.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the other hand scene is the drinking of the blood. So
Yeah,
this,
there were many hand scenes. Also, like in the war photo that Elizabeth was studying, there were also a lot of hands up in the air. And there was a lot, like you said, there's a lot of touching, there's a lot of caressing. It's very sentient.
I don't know anything about Christianity or religion. Like the nailing of the hen, it is it him being sacrificed? Is that the
Yeah,
and after is he resurrected?
I think so. I think so.
Okay.
It's it's when he's like being impaled on the cross, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah. Like after the nailing of this hand, I did feel Alma shift. Um, Suddenly she is able to read Elizabeth, like the analysis. And
That's why that's a part where I don't get. Like she was so cold and like she was
almost like the pasting has worked.
yeah,
Like,
oh yeah. But she realized everything and then yet the next scene she's running on the beach begging for forgiveness.
wait, that's okay, sorry. Maybe I forget when the nailing transpired. I thought it happened after all that begging and stuff, and then and
No, it happened before. So it happened, I think, I don't know. I think it happened right after. I might be wrong though. But in my notes at least, it happened right after the scene where everything explodes. And then gradually, like from a lot of blurriness, gradually Elizabeth comes back into focus again,
mm.
is the scene.
Oh, you
But
might yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah.
I don't understand like what her transition in feelings were for Alma to be like very cold and judging in the first second and then in the second she's like running, please forgive me. I didn't understand that part.
Happened in a relationship. Like one trick didn't
That's true.
work. You tried another trick and didn't work, and then yeah. I think it just happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. There's so many themes in this movie.
Yeah. Who do you think you are in relationships? The same question we had last week.
You mean in this movie?
Yeah. It has to be a one or the other.
I
I have,
don't know because in the end, I think like they're both thrown into a blender and kind of blended, right?
but that happens in relationships too. Like
Yeah,
we
that's
speak
the
of,
ambiguity of
speaks of
everything.
we speak of 夫妻相, right? Like
That's because you do the same things and have the same expressions in the same time.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you
Like
spend
the
time with each other and you look similar. But they look similar, I feel like, from the start.
start, yeah, from the start. Maybe Bergman's fetish or preferences. Man.
Yeah. They they look so shockingly similar when their two faces are stitched together. It looks I was like, wow, their eyes look exactly the same in black and white.
Yeah. And also like the film is intentional in its lighting. Like sometimes they just do like and the other half is in the dark, you know,
They're imposed on each other in a lot of scenes. Like one is in the front, one is in the back.
that sort of thing. Yeah, right.
Hmm.
I'm just trying
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to use my hand. Like a lot of this, yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a pretty movie too. Like every scene, it's beautiful. Every scene is like a very perfect photograph. That's interesting too. The cinematography is great.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
My home screen is still like a screenshot of this movie. So
Who do you think you are?
um I can see myself being either in situations. Like I can be very passive aggressive in situations and I can't ghost or be very avoided in situations. Um, yeah, I can see myself being either. I think in a way they're both side of the same coin of myself. Like I see
Hmm.
myself being either. Yeah.
I think that's the right interpretation to have because it's the two sides of any single person
So it
persona.
is about one person. It's about me. Like
Yeah, it's about you, exactly. But I meant like in this movie,
oh, what
I feel
I
like
know what
one
you
of the
mean.
themes is intentionally just trying to say that, everyone has their own personas, everyone has their facades, and that's reasonable because one of the analyses that Elizabeth had written down in her letter was, she's interesting because she has this outer like exterior kind of personality, but on the inside, she wallows over the sins and guilt that she has, and she has this side to her as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's speaking to the theme of, everyone has their own persona.
And to wrap our like session up, I guess, like, do you perceive it to be like a romantic movie? Like, would you ever like classify this as romance? Like,
I it depends. Like I would and I wouldn't because to me it feels like yes, there's definitely some romantic scenes, romantic interactions, and it's also a deep dive into relationships and the dynamics that change in a relationship, or like you said, how people change in a relationship over time and get copy and pasted bits of themselves into someone else. That's definitely there, but um I think I personally wouldn't watch it as a romantic movie because I think it's so much more than that, and
copy,
it dives into so many more themes than just romance that it shouldn't be just
copy, copy,
seen as a romantic movie.
copy, copy.
That would be downsizing it or making making it lesser than it actually is. It's a great movie. It has so many things inside of it, and I feel like it's one of those good movies where you should watch by yourself
Hmm,
and get lost in thought.
hmm,
It's one of those movies. I don't think it's good for two people. It's not that kind of romance. It's like a more like a romance for yourself and for
Self-love.
reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah, self-love, reflection of who you are, what you think they're doing, and what you are doing and what you are currently in life,
Hmm,
and where you should go from there.
hmm. I feel
Kind
like
of,
no, I get where you're coming from because this film is like a lot of things, but I didn't mean it to be like this film can solely be classified as a romance. I meant like would
Mhm.
people like because on IMDb and other like sites, there's multiple labels. It could be
Yeah.
like thriller, romance, like a bunch of things. Yeah, but I did find it interesting, and I'm not trying to like argue with you, but like sometimes we do like put a stigma on things that are considered solely romance. Like I feel like
Mhm.
a lot of intellectualized, pseudo-intellectual people, they would just pass movie over if it is, classified as a romance or like a chick flick or like a
That's
rom-com.
me.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
me.
sorry for calling you out. Like even last week we were talking about Phantom Thread being a rom-com. For me, it's one of the greater compliments because at this point in my life, I'm really tired from work and stuff. And sometimes I only have energy to watch a rom-com. And sometimes I get life lessons out of them. So I feel like we shouldn't be viewing certain genres as lesser than others. And th which is the point of our like series, right? Like unlikely Valentine's movie. Like
Yeah,
you wouldn't think of them as like romance, but when you dive deeper into them, then the core of it is intimacy. Perhaps, I don't know, there's many cores of this movie, but one core could be romance,
definitely,
one
definitely.
core could
Yeah.
be like LGBTQ explorations. If we boil it down to just themes, I do think romance is a part of it, like,
Yes. Yes, yes.
yeah.
Definitely. I completely 200% agree with you.
Yeah. And
There was-
yeah, I think this concludes our part two.
I thought I had something to say, but I forgot. God, how did it
Okay.
get? What's wrong with me?
I think this
But
film just like puts people on tangents. Like I just so many loose threads of thoughts and
yeah.
just can't trace back to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember what I wanted to say. I watched, I think I told you this already, but Rex and I went and watched Companion,
Mm,
and it's like a sci-fi horror, also rom-com,
mm,
and I really, really liked it. It's kind of cliche. Rex thought it was super cliche, like he anticipated all of the things that would happen before they happened. But to me, it was a fun watch and it explores like relationship dynamics as well. And I think it's intentionally labeled as a Valentine's Day movie,
mm.
even though, it's some of the themes that people don't think would merge that well with romance, like sci-fi and that. But it was creative, and I like creative movies, so I would recommend it to you too. And it's more blockbustery. It's definitely not as thought-provoking as Persona,
I
but
mean,
I like it nonetheless.
I read fan fictions. Like I don't mind cliches if they're well, if they're it's well shot or well acted. If the colors are cute, I might like it. Yeah.
But it's fun though. Maybe we should talk about it.
For next week. I mean,
Yeah, for next
yeah,
week, do a quick talk. It could be like, I don't know, 20 minutes.
sure.
Because there are some speaking points,
Okay.
for sure.
And if it's on sites that are available to me, then yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, if you have time, watch Nosferatu, maybe. I like that one too. That's also romance movie.
So for next week, definitely horror, I guess, is what I'm sensing. Horror themed
Wait,
Valentine.
Nosferatu? Wait, this is a tangent, but Nosferatu, you can cut this part out. It's also comedy to me because the male protagonist is just so dumb, it's funny.
I think like for future videos, we can try to, relabel films. You know what I mean? Like Tiana can be like, Nosferatu is a comedy. Next.
Okay, I wouldn't say that, okay? I wouldn't say that. Have you ever heard of such thing as gothic comedy other than I don't know the what family again? The Addams family?
I mean,
Yeah.
you can anything is possible. Like,
That's true. That's
yeah,
true.
from your like lens, it's comedy. From some people's lens, Phantom Thread is like a rom-com. Like, you can just say things, just
You can just say
and
no repercussions. We just
it
say
just
say
might
things.
resonate with people, and that's where power comes, right? You become
We
you
copy paste onto them.
yeah, you paste. Yeah.
We paste.
We paste. Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully you stick with us
For more copy pasting.
for next week, right? Yeah, for if our thoughts stick on you, then good for us. Then thanks to you, yeah, for sticking with us for this long, if you are.
I like it. Today is a 包饺子结局.
It's just 反面 like copy paste and like
Yeah.
honestly, it's PTSD from me editing the last. It's a lot of like command, like command being command B, like a lot of keyboard talk. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.